I'm Kristy Aasheim, a top producing agent in North Dakota, and this show is all about learning from the best. Top producers, brokerage owners, and industry experts who have faced the challenges, put in the work, and climbed to greatness. Whether you're looking to sharpen your skills, gain new strategies, or even get inspired by the journeys of top agents, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome back to The Inner Circle, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on the real estate success and dive into what really makes top producers rise to the top. I'm your host, Kristy Aasheim, and today I'm beyond excited to introduce someone who divides elite and world resort real estate. That's a tongue twister there. Katie Morrison is a powerhouse agent at Berkshire Hathaway in Big Sky, Montana. She has over 81 million in closed sales, which is phenomenal, and she is the go-to expert for the Big Sky market. Today, we're going to talk to her about her rise for success, how Montana market has evolved, and her advice to anything with the new agents, and of course, some fun stories from the field. Let's dive in. Welcome, Katie. How are you?
Good. How are you, Kristy? Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. First off, I just need to know a little bit about you. Tell everybody who you are.
So I am a Montana native. I actually was born in Butte and then had moved to Minnesota. And then back in the early 2000s, I just missed the mountains and moved back. And I love to ski. I actually have skied since I could walk. And so Big Sky was a natural place to come back to. And what started off as being I was going to be a ski bum for a year has turned into me living there and creating a family and being part of the community. So it's been an amazing journey.
That's awesome. Big Sky is fabulous. And being a Montana native myself, I am from the other side. So when people say, "Oh, you're from Montana, that's so pretty," I'm like, "Yeah, the other side." It's very pretty, but very different. But I know I've been to Big Sky throughout the years, and it is gorgeous, but you've had some growth. Tell us a little bit about what has all been happening in Big Sky.
So Big Sky didn't even start until the 70s. And so, unlike most other ski towns that started off as a mining town or some other mountain town and then became a ski resort, Big Sky was literally nothing and then became a ski resort. So, we're behind all the other mountain towns, if you will, with that. And with that has been a lot of extreme growth. And so when I first moved to Big Sky, where our downtown area was just a sagebrush field. There wasn't a stoplight. And in the summertime, you couldn't even find a place to go out to eat because everywhere was closed. And then fast forward, here we are in 2025, and now with three of the most expensive private clubs, and we have a year-round population of over 3,000. And then during the peak seasons with all the second homeowners, we're closer to 10,000. That actually has been a really big change, but also even with the amenities of that, the hotspot used to be a little corner bar. That's like all you could go to. And now you can go to the one and only or Montage, some of the most elite brands in the world. So it really has seen some amazing changes.
Oh, absolutely. Now, a lot of people don't know. No, there's only one hotel, correct? Still to this day?
So now there actually are a couple more. So the Montage was built a couple years ago in Spanish Peaks, and then the one and only, which is a very elite high-end hotel up at Moonlight Basin, is open for reservations for this upcoming winter. But like down in Big Sky proper in the town center, the Wilson Hotel is the hotel that's there.
Yeah, and that's just insane because it's such a hot spot. Everybody loves to go to Big Sky, and it is gorgeous for all the right reasons they want to go there. Um,
Yes.
so what has happened in recent years? I know with COVID, we had an influx into Montana. How has that affected your real estate?
So COVID was insane and how it affected us in that. So that's actually when I switched being from with an independent broker to Berkshire Hathaway was literally like the week of close down, which is what was so crazy. But when that all happened, I was like, oh my gosh, this might have been the dumbest decision I've ever made. And instead it turned into that my phone didn't ring for the first month and then it didn't stop ringing for 2 years. And the type of exponential growth that we saw wasn't quite the same as what it was in most Montana places where a lot of people wanted to go find a new place to settle their family, a new school system, all of that. We didn't see as much of that. We saw some, but what we saw more of was that, especially with the low interest rates, everyone wanted some place to escape to. Everyone wanted another place, and that I think the value of doing things that they loved and sharing it with their friends and family, that became an important piece. And so our second homeowner response actually really shifted. And then the other difference was that before people might come out, they might stay at the Summit Hotel at Big Sky Base area and go skiing for a week a year. And now they're like, I can work from home. Why would I just do that for a week? Why don't I go spend the month of March in Big Sky? And so then it made more sense to own. So our second homeowner ownership went through the roof, and especially because there's a lot more people who have a lot of means. Some of it was cash, but honestly, even people who could afford to pay cash with low interest rates, it just made tons of sense to do that. And then to be able to rent out their place when they weren't there to try to cash flow it. So we actually saw a gigantic increase in that type of buyer.
Did that also increase the building at that time, or was it still pretty quiet until after COVID got settled in?
The building had already started and was surging, especially in the private clubs of Moonlight Basin and Spanish Peaks, because they were already putting in an influx of money from all the private equity money that was coming in. And so then that just ramped up where they already had the plans in place, but they just sped up everything that was happening. I think that part of what ended up happening with that is that then we also had a labor shortage. So, as did a lot of places in Montana. And so I feel like that was one of the times where we would promise someone that something would be delivered and it would be a year later. It was really challenging from that perspective. And especially because we're doing our best to communicate what we're being told, but it just couldn't get done in the time frames. And especially when the supply chain was so challenging as well, that made it really hard. And so we saw this crazy influx of people who were purchasing homes before they'd even broken ground, not knowing when they were going to come through. And then there were different deposit schedules. And so typically, by the time framing happened or by the time that it was dried in, they would have 40% down on the property. And so there was no way people were going to back out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you feel like most of your clients, even to this day, are more in the STR realm, or are they just home buyers that are going to live there?
I actually have seen recently more of a shift to people who they're not going to live there, but that they're going to have it be their part-time home and not do short-term rentals. I guess probably 50-50 of which between the two. But a lot of times now people have realized that because we've had so many people who've turned them into short-term rentals that the numbers don't pencil the same way that they did a few years ago either. And
Yeah.
for the amount of times that they'd have to rent it, they'd rather be there at Christmas. They'd rather be there during spring break. They'd rather be there the 4th of July than rent it out those big weeks. And that's really when you make the most of your money when you're doing short-term rentals.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I own one, not in that area, but it totally relate. It's really hard. Right now, I'm just like, okay, just keep it rented. I guess I just won't go there. But yeah, when you have especially a small community like that and it's totally saturated, it takes away the investment portion. But it's definitely a beautiful area. How about new agents? Is there influx of new agents? How many agents do you guys have in the actual Big Sky area? I know you probably have some come from Bozeman too, but
We do. We probably have about 100 or so that practice in Big Sky, and just like anywhere else, it's an 80-20 of who does the majority of the sales and who does all that. It's been a hard market to get into, and part of it is just that the cost of living in Big Sky is really high. And so for a brand new agent to come in and to be able to get a foothold in the market has been challenging. So I would actually say that we haven't seen a ton of new agents come into the market. We've seen more like from Bozeman doing more work in Big Sky and some agents that maybe used to not do as much doing more. But I wouldn't say that we actually have seen a huge increase in the number of agents just because of those factors.
oh, absolutely. Even outside of Big Sky, do you see an influx of agents at all in the western part? Montana, although huge, it just is. I can't go anywhere or get away with anything in the entire state without knowing somebody somewhere. But what do you think? Are there more coming in? Are they getting work or what's going on there?
I think that maybe there's starting to be a bit more. I know that within Berkshire Hathaway, we actually weren't taking on a lot of new agents for a while just because during the COVID times, where if you were representing a new buyer, like to be able to get them a property was so challenging. And then all of a sudden it went the other way and that things were on the market longer and it was just it there just weren't enough sales happening. So I think just the challenging market that we've been in for a few years has held off on more agents getting into selling. So we haven't seen that. We are taking new agents on again now in the company, but I would say that it's not at the pace that it was maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah. So here's my number one question because I know Montana weather and it's cold, and a lot of people just see the beauty and they're like, oh, I want to live there. It's amazing. We go there for a week, but then if you go there for longer, you realize it can be very miserable too. I still love Montana through and can deal with it, but do you find that there's people that come and buy and can't handle it and leave or rent it, or what do they do?
I think that's the glory of second home ownership. And
Yeah.
that's why we see so much of that is that it's snowing in Big Sky this week. Like that's,
Yes.
and typically it does in June. Typically it does in September and October. There's not a time that's, oh, it definitely won't snow. And so I think that from that perspective, if you're a second homeowner, it's novel. But, oh my God, we had the most amazing ski season this year. We had so much snow. It was amazing. And I feel like all the locals were like, oh my God, I need to see the sun. It's been so much
It was
snow.
so long.
It
Yes.
was so long. Winter was so long, which is wonderful. And now that the resort's closed, we're all craving a bit more sunshine and dry weather, and it's time for the snow to stop. So I think that everyone feels that, but that overall, I think that has kept Big Sky more of a second homeowner type of town.
Okay. That was good because I just can't see that place being huge.
No. And Big Sky also, like the way that the whole topography is too, is that we're surrounded by mountains. And then the challenges with being a closed basin, and also the challenges of that we have national lands all around us, like Forest Service land and wilderness, that it's really limited in what could actually be developed within Big Sky. And so because of that is part of what causes our issues with housing for workforce. But along with that, there's just no way for it to ever become like a Salt Lake City or a Denver.
Yeah, which is good because to
Right.
me, Montana's special. We got to keep those little hidden gems special
Exactly.
and small and all those things. But let's talk about the beginning. How did you ever get into like what was the reason behind you getting into real estate?
Like most things out of necessity. Just like many people who moved to Big Sky, I moved there to be a ski bum, and even back then, it was just challenging to make enough money to make it. And so I went from trying to have three part-time retail jobs to being like, I really need to be able to afford rent. And so I got offered a job at the Yellowstone Club in the sales and marketing department, just working as a sales and marketing assistant, and just found that I loved it. And I had a fantastic mentor who was the vice president of sales and marketing. And I got to learn from literally just sitting, and it's so funny, literally sitting in our double wide trailer while we were selling because the lodge wasn't done yet. And
Perfect.
just hearing all the agents and hearing the VP of sales and having clients walking through. And so I got to understand it from almost like osmosis. I was just like learning by hearing things. And then moved my way up and along with the marketing department because we were having magazines and pro skiers and whatever. And so I would get to be the representative that could go ski people around. And then I got to be the person that could go ski around with potential clients. And so it started off as so much fun. And it still is, but it was a way for me to actually make really good money while still totally loving what I was doing. So anyway, from that standpoint, it was a fun learning environment, and so it made it an easy transition to get into.
That's unique. I love the stories because I feel like very few people were like, yep, I just always wanted to be a real estate agent, so I went and did it.
It would never have occurred to me, I don't think.
No, my story was similar. It was just a series of events, and that's what ended up happening. But I just don't know very many people that are like, nope, I was going to be a real estate agent. I would say every single person I've interviewed, it just happened by
Yeah.
turns of events in your life that go on. But I do find it fun that you get to go skiing with everybody. That's unique, and I'm sure you're amazing. You should take me and teach me.
Yes, come out to Big Sky, we'll go.
Yeah, yeah, I'm much more of a Red Lodge Mountain girl. That's how not good I am. But yeah, I would say with real estate the way it is now, and agents coming in, and I know there's not many in the Montana areas. What advice do you have for anybody new coming in as a real estate agent, knowing what you knew then to now? Like, what is advice for starting your business?
I think some of the best advice is just, and I know that this seems old school now that everybody can work from home and that's a great freedom, but go into the office and just listen to other agents, find mentors because as a new agent, you're not going to be given the opportunities probably to be able to do it, and that you can learn so much from understanding and listening to somebody negotiate a contract and listening to somebody work through an inspection or whatever it is, because it just takes a lot of time to have that many transactions under your belt. So if you're able to learn from other people's transactions, no transactions are ever the same. And so at least you'll have some experience of, oh, in this type of situation, this worked or that didn't. So I feel like, yeah, finding other mentors. And I feel like in not every real estate office, but in most, people do want to help each other. And people also are always looking to one another for advice because there's always a situation none of us have been through. So yeah,
Oh,
it's helpful to
absolutely.
have others to work through it.
For sure. I learn something new every day. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. There's always something that comes up. You're like, wow, okay, I have no idea what to do here. We're gonna figure this out.
Yes.
We're gonna get through this. Or there's a rare property where you're like, now this is odd. We'll see, figure it out.
Figure it out. And I think that's a great part of being a real estate agent. I'm sure that you feel this too, but when it keeps it interesting because no two transactions are ever the same. There's never anything that's, oh, I do this and I do this and I do this and then it's done. It's like, that's not the way a transaction goes ever.
No, and it's usually the cheapest of the properties that you spend 8 hours a day trying to
Totally.
mold it to come together. And then another high-end one might take 2 weeks to close and it took you 5 minutes. And you're like, oh, I don't know what just happened there. Never know what's gonna happen.
Never know. No, it
That's
all equals out. Yeah. And I guess that's another thing that I would say to agents too, is I know some people get really hung up on what their commission is going to be and how it's all going to work out. And I'm like, I don't know how, but it just always works out. And I think by not focusing, like not counting your chickens, just trying to focus on your client and making sure that they get and do what's right for them. Sometimes it's the right thing is to terminate a contract. Sometimes the right thing is to tell them not to buy that house that they think they really love. Like that's that they can't afford it or that they can't, that there's too many issues with it or whatever it is that I think rather than looking at the amount of money that you're going to make, if you always stay focused on how can I be in service, then it always works out.
Oh, hands down. You should always be doing what's best for your client. I never even think about the commission ever. I never really have. And I will definitely give up a little commission here and there if it's what's going to make the deal close. If it's a difference of $500, just take it. I got it.
Right. I'm like, I'm not going to lose the
Oh,
deal.
you have to be
Okay.
that type of agent that's no, I'll do whatever we can do to make this happen, which really prompts me into the NAR stuff. How is that going in your market with all these new rules and all the new commissions? I know some are having issues, some are not. How's it going down there for you?
I think it's helpful actually being in Montana. We've been signed buyer brokers for forever. So that's hasn't been a change whatsoever. I've been having these conversations with my clients for forever, so that didn't change. The contracts themselves and the listing agreement looks different. The hardest thing has been have someone who I've been working with for years because I have a lot of kind of like serial buyers that I'll normally just be like, oh, hey, you might be interested in this or you might be interested in that. And you'd be like, oh, wait, I need to have you sign a new buyer broker. I need to have you sign a touring agreement, but just to have that where we already have an understood relationship and to actually have to formalize it a bit more and just getting into the habits, but we
Mhm.
haven't actually seen it change our numbers. I was actually like on a manager group meeting the other day, and actually our numbers are slightly up compared to last year on what the commissions have been for buyer
Oh,
brokers.
wow, that's
So it
great.
really hasn't changed. Yeah.
Have you seen a lot of negotiable on the buyer side or not? Rather than having a dollar amount put on them?
No, I really haven't. Like on the buyer side, I've been feeling I haven't seen much of that at all. The only times that I've seen it actually have been when agents from other markets are representing people in our market.
Okay.
Because honestly, because we're such a tight market and because with all the private clubs and whatever, it's just a very challenging market for someone outside to come in and understand. And so our market is really held to the 6% commission with three on each side. And so when somebody else comes in, a lot of times they're doing it at a discount and giving the buyer just
So
to
they
be
can.
able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We are seeing a lot of negotiables. I would say 90% when I text the agent, hey, is there buyer's compensation before I show the home so I can do a lot of times you do those one-time showings so that you're
Yeah.
specific. And we have a lot of negotiables because I currently work in the North Dakota, Montana, and South Dakota market, but I'm
Oh, so you have to learn the rules in all of them.
yes,
Yes.
yes, but we literally are seeing just a lot of negotiables, which is good and bad. Definitely, you're seeing your buyers get less unless your buyer's agent. So I was just
Yeah.
curious if the other side of the state was feeling that because we see a lot of it up here.
The way that we've been doing it, we do a lot of touring, and Big Sky is very unique, evidently, in this, but we do a lot of touring agreements. And so we'll go and tour properties with somebody, and then when it comes time to do the contract, we'll write it specific to that property. And so then we'll be able to reach out and just ask the other agent, is your seller offering a commission and how much? And so then we can write the contract directly to whatever that is happening. But I would say 98% of the time is 3%.
Yeah, yeah. And we get to do the same. It's more or less that they'll just say, oh, you can put it because the North Dakota agreements have it in there where you can put the commission and it's blunt. So then you just have to
Yep.
guess, okay, are they going to take three? Are they going to take 2.5? Because you want to do what's best for your client. So that makes it even worse.
When we're allowed to like find out ahead of time, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And we
what
do,
amount. And
but a
so,
lot of times they're like, nope, the client said it's negotiable. So you'll just have to put it in the contract. So then it affects your
oh,
buyer,
wow,
right? Because
totally.
if you
And
put
then
too
you're like
much,
working against your buyer on some level.
you are working against your buyer. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't like it. Is it good for the seller? Yes. But it's really not good for your buyer because you are really working against them. So
I
you,
don't even know that it's good for your seller because I feel like, at least in our market, we have so few people that like, if it gets out that I just don't feel like people are going to be as excited to, of course you're going to show all the properties and whatever, but are you going to reach out to 30 clients and say, hey, I think this property might be for you? Like that's,
it's
yeah, that's going to be a challenging side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully you guys don't feel that in the near future, but it's definitely something we are seeing.
Well,
Uh,
that's interesting.
yeah, it's something different, that's for sure. Real estate is definitely changing, and now we are into full AI and all that kind of stuff. Are you guys using any AI at this moment?
I love AI. I totally am using AI.
Okay, what do you love?
So a couple things. One of them is, and now I'm totally spacing the name, but I have this one program where I can upload PDFs. And so Big Sky is a non-incorporated town. We have HOAs and districts that run everything. So there's covenants on every single property. And to understand what you're allowed to do and who can do what and whatever, you have to read through this 80-page document. I just upload the PDF to my AI. I type in a question and it answers me and shows me where it's at.
Okay, now you got to find the name of that because
I know, like
that
it's
sounds
amazing. Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And then of course, like even just doing wordsmithing for descriptions, and I have like the upgraded one so I can put in photos and that type of thing. And of course, like I adjust it to be more me personally, but it just, yeah, it's so much easier to edit something than it is to start with a blank piece of paper.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. ChatGPT is my friend and it's wonderful. And I have found since I've been using it so long, it really figures out who you are. You can ask them
totally. Like it
questions
finds your
about,
voice.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Stalks me on my computer. I'm like, that's probably videoing me all the time.
Well, hopefully ChatGPT likes our call.
I'm sure it's going to give me something, that's for sure. No, it's a great tool. Have you been using any of the ones with for your email? I have not yet, but it's a new one that I wanted to try.
Like sometimes the AI will auto-generate just on my Gmail stuff. So I guess that's it, but I haven't really explored other than that. The other one I love is called Perplexity because, and I actually even just did this today, that I have a client whose refrigerator is bad and it's an inspection. And I'm like, okay, what refrigerator is the same as this one? And it just gives me three options rather than me trying to search through and figure out what size it is and what the features are and whatever. I just typed in the model number and said, okay, what are three similar replacement refrigerators?
Oh,
And that was it.
yeah, it is a time saver and definitely can give you instructions for just about anything. Yeah, that's wonderful. So I have to divert just a little bit. We're going to go off real estate. We're going to go more you. So as a local to Big Sky, what's some of your favorite places that you like to go to? More of the local places, like where the locals hang out.
I would say one of my favorite restaurants is Olive Bees. That is, so I have a bunch of dietary restrictions and they've always been amazing with me on those. So since they started, we've always gone there and they have a beautiful deck that looks at the mountain. So I absolutely love that. Also, Tres Toros came in with like just really fun tacos and a super fun atmosphere. And they do great margaritas, including NA margaritas. And so to be like Town Center Avenue all of a sudden has like just had a really fun environment that's come about. And now that it's basically the same developer for Yellowstone Club, Moonlight, and Spanish Peaks has bought the remaining development rights. And so they actually have been really putting a lot more in and it's starting to develop faster. And so I feel like there's just more going on. And then during the summertime to go to the farmers market, which I mean, it's Montana. It's not like you're going to be getting bananas in June.
No,
But at
but
the
you'd be
same time,
surprised.
and at the same time, there's tons of, it's just a really fun atmosphere. And then so you always run into your friends. And there's also, it's just a great mix because then there's also a lot of people from out of town that are there. And there's all sorts of crafts and arts and that type of thing. But then I always get my flowers there. They have the most gorgeous flowers. So every week I go get new flowers too.
Really? That's
Yeah,
unique. I wouldn't think that for the area, I guess, that they would have the fresh flower.
right. Yeah, and it's one everyone's coming up from Bozeman, or a lot of them are for our farmers market because you can't really grow much in Big Sky. But overall, to be able to have all those kind of things, I think that's just such a fun thing to do.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. For sure.
and I love too. There's just so much. I feel like for Big Sky because we're all so active that is more the locals vibe. Is you just run into people at the tram line or you run into people on the trail, and that's more of I guess what our social scene is too, which I think is really fun.
That's good. I mean, it's healthy, right? If you're always doing something outdoors. It's a very outdoorsy place. I've been to some places up at one of the resorts where they have their private lake and the private this, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even know this was here. Beautiful.
Yeah, no, and you literally never get tired of the views. It's
No,
just insane. And they're constantly changing. It's so amazing.
yeah. So do you feel like you have a core group of people that keep you grounded and keep you successful and that you work with all the time? Or are you just out there with everybody?
No, I definitely, yeah, it takes a village for me. Yeah. First of all, my husband is always incredibly supportive and grounded. So that has been really helpful. And even I went back and got my master's degree in finance, and that was a 4-year thing actually during COVID, which I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be slow. And then it wasn't at all.
Right. You're like, no, just kidding.
Right. Which was crazy. But he was just so supportive of we'd make dinner on nights at glass and whatever. And so I feel like having just that type of support has been amazing. And then I come from a really big Montana family as well. And so that's been really great to have that type of support within. And even just, I always joke that I'm related to everybody in Montana because my dad's the oldest of 10 kids. And so somehow there's some way in which someone's like my second or third cousin. But with that, I actually have a lot of other industry professionals like within my family that I can reach out to with just like general questions and that type of thing too. And then honestly, because Big Sky is such a small town, but then there's so many second homeowners, my clients have become really good friends too. And it's been my way to live in a small town and yet feel like I'm globally connected because I think I don't think I would have wanted to live here that long if I didn't have 20 years would be a long time to be in a place with only 3,000 people. I think I would just need more novelty than that.
Yep.
And so having so many friends that are from Texas or California or from New York or from Boston, that it's been great to just have a different perspective on life in that way. And a lot of them too come from, if they're my clients, that they have like interesting backgrounds on how they got to where they are to be able to afford to buy in Big Sky. And so professionally, they've been great sources of advice as well.
I imagine your circle being very unique and awesome. And I'm all about that. And that's why I call the podcast Inner Circle. I'm all about finding these people that make you grow and make you succeed and make you better. And I think that's what's most important for not just agents, but anybody wanting to be successful in life. So that's cool that you get to meet all these unique people. Yeah, for sure. I'm sure a lot of people ask, do you have any famous clients?
You know what's this is so funny is that I wouldn't say like I have any truly like famous clients that most people hear about, but that I've had a couple clients that because like when I went back to school to get my master's degree, that they're like a big deal in the finance world. And I'm like, oh my God. That like it was never, but never anyone who's, yeah, there are, of course, like all the famous people and that are like part of Yellowstone Club or whatever. And I don't have anyone that's my client within that group. But I think that's part of why a lot of famous people feel comfortable in Big Sky though, is because it's not a thing. Like you, it's just like no one's walking up to them asking for autographs or whatever.
Oh, and I
Like,
would never either. But Montanan, I wouldn't care. I'd just be like, oh, everybody's here to hang out. Let's have a blast. No, I agree with you, but I know probably that's got to be a question on people's mind when they hear about the area for sure.
yeah.
So my last question is just give us a couple stories. Give us a couple real estate stories, good, bad, ugly. We got to hear them all because we all have a million.
Yes, thinking about some funny ones. So always do your walkthrough, I would say, is one of mine. So I used to be part of an independent brokerage that we were all together as a team. And that one, we had this listing and we were representing both sides. And it was the week of closing. And I had gone in maybe 3 days before because everyone's second homeowners. And so it wasn't like anyone was living there. I had just gone in and made sure that the furniture list was correct and that like everything looked fine. And then my associate went in the the morning right before it was supposed to record, and in that 2 day time frame, a marmot had chewed its way into the house. And there was a gigantic hole in the entryway, and there was like a family of marmots in the house.
How does that even happen?
I
Like it
know.
does, but that's just insane.
So that, and it was like a house way up into the mountains and whatever. But anyway, so that was, and I have to say, like, I loved how the client, like, of course, we had to like address this immediately because of
Right.
condition of property or whatever. And the seller emailed the buyer and said, free pet, but then like went on to say how you take care of it. So I thought that was a funny one.
Yeah, at least they're all good sports. It have to be when you're in the middle of nowhere and there's a lot
Right.
of wildlife for sure.
Oh, totally. Yeah. But I'm trying to think of any others. One of them I would say is one that helped me get used to, and I don't know if you guys do this much in your market, but I do sight unseen's all the time right now, and they never existed before COVID. Thank God technology caught up in
Yeah.
time. It was something that used to never happen and happens a lot. But when I wasn't used to it, it was during COVID, and I had met with this family, and they were fantastic, and felt like I really understood what they were looking for. And because things were going off the market so fast, and you had to make really strong offers, I saw this property come on and I just emailed it to them. I'm like, this is it. This is the house. You have to go. And they're like, okay, write up the offer. And they were literally not going to come out and see it. And this was an expensive home. This was definitely in the luxury
Mhm.
world within
Yeah.
Midnight Basin. And they were literally not going to come out and see the house. And I was like, no, you have to, you have to, because I just felt like that was so much pressure. And even though they love it, it was the right house, all of that. I'm like, I do trust my instincts, but I feel like those are the moments where I'm like, okay, I'm glad you trust me, but that might be too much trust.
You're scaring me just a bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we have a ton of sight unseen up here, so it's very normal. But I am in an oil field town, so
Yeah.
sometimes you have to if you want something when you know the oil's up and things like that. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
I
Definitely. I've
can't
gotten more
imagine with a
comfortable with
luxury
it.
home like that. That's a whole different ball game. I'm
I
usually
know.
shop, no big deal.
Yeah. But honestly, that's my own hang up with it as well, because it's really no different for what someone can afford. That was just if that's, and because it was from an investment perspective, it really was the right decision to make. And but it has helped me fine tune a bit more to be like, I have to really believe in it to do that too. And of course I did, but like I've just been, I don't know, a bit more on the razor edge of do I really think this is it?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's so good to that we have FaceTime and stuff nowadays
Oh,
because I
totally.
FaceTime a ton. And then you're there and you can be like, okay, the house smells like smoke or smells like cat, or
Right.
you
Yeah,
can fine tune and say, hey, there is some issues here. You can really fine tune it a little bit more than maybe we could have years ago too.
totally true. Yeah. I actually even had one client that wanted me to go test drive a car for him because he was worried about does it smell like cigarette smoke or not. And so it was like he was buying a house and wanted to have the vehicle there too.
That was nice of you. Nice
I know.
of you to check it for him.
And it's so funny because like he's 6 feet tall and I'm 5'3". I'm like, I don't know that I'm the right person to test drive.
I think I need another foot on me for that to work.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, pretty funny.
Thank you so much, Katie, for joining me today. This was a great little conversation, and I hope we can have another one soon.
Yes, ditto. Thanks so much for having me, Kristy. Have a great rest of your day.
Yes, you too. Thank you. That's it for this episode of the Inner Circle podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation and took away some valuable insights to help you along your real estate journey. If you found today's episode helpful, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop me a comment below with your biggest takeaway or any questions you might have. And if you know someone who would benefit from this conversation, share this episode with them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on the Inner Circle.